رضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من أن نشرك بك شيئا نعلمه ونستغفرك لما لا نعلمه. أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن وأعوذ بك من العجز والكسل وأعوذ بك من الجبن والبخل وأعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم عافني في بدني، اللهم عافني في سمعي، اللهم عافني في بصري. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الكفر والفقر وأعوذ بك من عذاب القبر. لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت. خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت. أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت. أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. وبعد إن شاء الله we are waiting brother Noaman. He is not coming yet, but until he comes inshallah we can share together something inshallah. Number one, when we say we talk about Sudan or Palestine or Gaza or Bangladesh or Afghanistan or Uzbekistan or Pakistan or any Muslim country anywhere, that is showing us the importance of the unity of the Ummah. We have to know what is happening, what's happening everywhere, what is the plan, what is the Sudan, what we know about Sudan. For example, some information we should know about Sudan. How many population of Sudan? Say a question for us. The population of Sudan. Check. You have معلومات. That's information about one of the Muslim country. The land of Sudan. How big the land of Sudan? 48 million. 48 million. And how big the land? 2.5 million square kilometer. 2.5 million square kilometer. Double and a half of the land of Egypt. Double. Equivalent of the land of Saudi. The land of Sudan, if just have wheat, will be enough for all Muslims everywhere. That's one of the country. Why they target Sudan? What happened in Sudan? That you can ask the guest if he came. If he doesn't come, don't ask me. So, because some details I have no idea about, some details is not complete in my mind. I know, but I cannot, not in the level to speak about that. So, then, question also, what is the biggest country in population in the world, the Muslim world? What the biggest country in number of population? Not Muslim countries, not necessarily Arab. India is not Muslim country. The Muslims in India, they are minority. Even if they are about 200 million, but they are minority. But some other country bigger than that. Indonesia. Then what? Then your country. Bangladesh. How many population in Bangladesh? 180, 185, about 185 million. Majority Muslim in Bangladesh. So we have to know. Why we have to know? That's a part of our deen. يقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مثل المؤمنين the believer like what? في توادهم وتراحمهم وتعاطفهم كمثل الجسد الواحد. The Muslimin anywhere, we are part of the Muslim Ummah. We are in America here, but part of the Ummah, belonging to the Ummah. So مثل المؤمنين في توادهم وتراحمهم وتعاطفهم كمثل الجسد الواحد إذا اشتكى منه عضو تداعى له سائر الأعضاء بالسهر والحمى. If any part, if any organ of your body painful, the whole body will respond. So when the brothers in Gaza, in Palestine, in West Bank, in everywhere, in Iraq before, and maybe still also, in Syria, in Sudan, what happened? Then what we have to do? Yes, we have to respond. Part of our job in the masjid to know about this country. Inshallah, I let Brother Ahmed Azam, inshallah, share with us, inshallah, few words also. And yani, that's, we stuck the tonight. Otherwise, we can talk about fiqh al-siyam. That's the other option. But we are not going to fiqh al-siyam. Let us do. And our brother Ahmed Abdullah, our brother Abdullah also will give us short talk about Bangladesh after Ahmed. No, Bangladesh. No, no. Brother what?
Imam Tabari.
Okay, talk about what? Okay. But you can invite the youth here?
Yeah.
خلاص إن شاء الله. Alhamdulillah, we have another guest speaker, but he will talk to us about a different topic. Inshallah, he's the speaker of the youth tonight. They will invite the youth here. Inshallah, he will talk to all of us. Inshallah, about the history of the slavery in America. So inshallah, that's a different topic, but inshallah, يلا يا مالك. inshallah احمد بقى تيجي بدري شويه، تعبان شويه، تتكلم شويه تقدمه وتبقى جنبه يعني ايش؟ اللي هيتكلم الامام اسمه طبري، امام طبري
بتاع الحديث. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, يعني inshallah we getting the reward for attending in the masjid even though the speaker is not here. I just want to remind you, in your intention, just remember you are here for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regardless of the speaker. So inshallah you get the reward for this. And I think, since we have a speaker tonight, is he coming right now? Just if there is a few words I want to mention before he come in. I think when you think about Gaza, that's an example of how the whole ummah basically fail to provide what is needed for part of the ummah. And Shaykh Jazallah Khair mentioned a hadith مثل المؤمنين في توادهم وهابن in Sudan, وهابن in Bangladesh, وهابن in Gaza, وهابن in United States. For the Muslims, this is our responsibility at least to do whatever we can. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. So basically, even as the minimum you can do to share this, to speak about it, to let the people know. Personally, I always take this advantage when I have gathering and I speak about, what happened in Gaza, and we talk about justice. And subhanallah, what's going on right now with the cleansing, with the trying to get rid of the people, force them out of their country. And I believe that's one of the biggest crime we are witnessing, and we are living in the country that's supporting that. So definitely, it's your right to speak about it. It's your right to be responsible by showing this is what I want to do. This is about Gaza. When it comes to Sudan, and I think what's coming to my mind, I never been in Sudan until the Sheikh come in, okay? We are waiting for him. So what happened in Sudan, I think about my brothers from Sudan. And I'm thinking about Brother Hani, for example, as ambassador of Sudan in our masjid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him full recovery and full shifa. He was here, he was among the community, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala testing him by some challenges where he cannot come to the masjid. So, and I think this is a moment, especially before the month of Ramadan, to check about all of your brothers and all of the community members in order, inshallah, to bring them back to the masjid and benefit from their presence, because we are like ummah wahida, jasadun wahid. Same thing, inshallah, when we are strong in the masjid, we are strong everywhere, inshallah. So this is just basically a few words until the speaker is walking in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him. And I want you all to feel like you are the youth, regardless of your age, inshallah. And here's the speaker of the youth. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Jazakallah khairan. To Brother Tabari for coming over here and, willing to give the talk to everybody right now. So Jazakallah khairan to him. He's the founder of the Lamps of Light project, which is set up to help Muslims, especially youth, with trauma, addiction, and other mental health challenges. He can give his introduction much better than I can at the last second, but Jazakallah khairan to Brother Tabari, and please, Muslim. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وأفضل الصلاة والتسليم على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم المصطفى الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما والحمد لله على كل حال. So initially I was coming here tonight to speak to the youth. MashaAllah shabab antum. You're all young, mashallah. So, we moved everything from this room to this room. I had like a story for them. I was going to tell them, inshallah. I had but I had something specific for them, but I'm going to have to change it a little bit because, but alhamdulillah, bismillah. So as he introduced me, my name is Tabari Zahir. I actually my profession is that I'm a clinician. So, I work with people who have, trauma, and we specialize in treating addictions. All right? We specialize in treating addictions, which is, and when I say addictions, I'm not just talking about drugs and alcohol. I'm also speaking about behavioral addictions, like social media, internet-based addictions. Our children, I'm also the Muslim chaplain at UCLA. So we have about 1,000 Muslims on campus at UCLA. So I hear every week when I go into the office, I hear what the children are tormented with. Because they'll tell me things that they'll never tell their parents. They'll say to me things that they will never tell to their parents. And just so that you understand the situation, the number one problem with the youth right now, the number one problem is what? It's the internet. But what from the internet? Who said it? I heard someone say it. Pornography. It's at the top of the list. All right, this is at the top of the list. Don't be deceived about it. Don't think that your innocent Aisha is going to stay innocent forever. Or your innocent Amin or Ahmed is going to stay innocent forever. They get exposed to a lot of things. And it has implications for the ummah, right? The American ummah. It has implications. Those implications are, when they get married, it's not enough to save the marriage. Because they have in their mind something other than, what it's like to be with a real person. They have in their mind a digital image. And the digital image is made up. It's fake. It's pretend intimacy. And sometimes they think it's going to be like that, or they unconsciously expect it to be like that. It will never be like that. And so the marriages fail. I know this. I have thousands of hours. Wallah al-azim. I have thousands of hours of listening to people and their problems. I do this for a living. And the Muslim community, no different. All right? When you talk to them in private, we have the same problems, many of the same problems that the larger community has in Los Angeles or in Riverside or wherever. It's just at a smaller scale. So inshallah, that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today. I'm going to talk about how trauma, how it affects our iman. Because many times we think that, we can tell our children when they begin to have problems, we can say to them, go and read Quran. Go and do some dhikrs. You need to pray more. And the problem with this, ya ibadullah, the problem with this is that if you don't properly diagnose the problem, ibadah can make the situation worse. And I'll give you two cases. A woman, the Sahaba, radiallahu anhum, they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they said, Ya Rasulullah, there is a woman in this neighborhood over here, and she fasts during the day, and she prays during the night, but she's hard and harsh to her neighbors. So we understand that if someone's praying at night, usually they're also praying during the day, right? So she's doing her fara'id, she's making the fard prayers, but she's also doing her nawafil. She's making tahajjud, and she's fasting during the day. But she has some undiagnosed situation. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he say about this woman? Even though she's praying and she's fasting, what did he say about her? She's for the fire. So you cannot say that in every case, more ibadah is going to solve the problem. Because if that would have solved the problem, it would have solved the problem for shaitan. In the tradition, it says that there is no place on earth that shaitan did not make sajda. Remember, he was in the mala'il a'la. He was in the highest assembly. He was near to the angels. He's jinn, but he's near to the angels because of his ibadah. But he had an undiagnosed condition. What's the undiagnosed condition? Kibr. Arrogance. Undiagnosed. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to expose him, he told him, bow down to Adam alayhi salam. He refused. And his arrogance made him say, Ana khayru minhu. I am better than him. I am better than him. So all of his prayers actually made him worse. It filled his heart with more arrogance. And more arrogance, and more arrogance. So we have to be very careful to diagnose the situation correctly. Be very careful. Because alhamdulillah, you know, like I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere. I give a khutbah in a different masjid every week. I give the khutbah in Corona. Today I was in Islamic Center of Irvine. Next week I'll be in Middle Ground in Upland. Then the next week after that, I'll be in a different place. So I hear what the imams say. I hear what the shuyukh say. I hear what the community members say. And many times they make mistakes with the youth. They make mistakes by telling them, oh, you need to read more Quran. No. You have to hear the situation. You have to diagnose the situation correctly. Or you can cause a problem. And I'll give you another example before I start. Someone tell me how much time I have, because I have a tendency to go and go and go and go. اسمح لي. نعم? 9. Okay. Bismillah. Yallah, Bismillah. We all have heard this hadith of the man who killed 99 people. We've heard this hadith, right? We heard this hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us there was a man and he killed 99 people. So he goes to his people and he says, who is the best amongst you? Who is the wisest amongst you? So they say, it's this monk up in the mountains. So he goes to the monk and he says, I have killed 99 people. Is there any hope for me? The monk tells him no. So he kills him too. So now he's killed 100 people. He goes back to his people and he says to his people, who is the wisest amongst you? They indicate another monk. And they indicate another one. He goes to that monk and he says, I have killed 100 people. Is there any hope for me? Now this one, he was wise, right? We might say, arif billah, like he understood, had an intimate relationship with Allah. So he says, yes, of course there's hope for you. Who can tell you there's no hope? But the difference between him and the other guy was a worshiper. He had no knowledge. But he's worshiper. This other one is a worshiper, but he also has ilm. He has knowledge. So he says to him, yes, who can tell you there's no hope? But at the same time, he diagnoses him. And he says, you come from a bad people. You have to make tawbah, but don't do it amongst your people. Leave your people. Leave. So he leaves. He's on the path to making tawbah. He dies on the way. He doesn't make it to the place where he's going to reform his life. He dies on the way. The angels of mercy come for him, and the angels of wrath, they come for him. And they began to argue amongst themselves, because his case is like, it's ajib, it's amazing. The angels of wrath say, no, he belongs to us. We're taking him to Jahannam. He's never did anything good in his life. And the angels of mercy say, no, he belongs to us because he was on the path of tawbah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends another angel in the form of a human being to dispute, to solve the dispute. And he tells them, if he's closer to the place where he was committing all those sins, he committed all those murders, then he goes with the angels of wrath. But if he's closer to the place where he was going to make tawbah, let him go, he goes with the angels of mercy. And because of a miracle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shortened the distance between where he was going to make tawbah and made him further away from the place where he committed all those murders. So he was able to go with the angels of mercy. He was saved. Now what's my point here? My point is this. Number one, I'm a clinician. I talk to people about their problems for a living. And this is one thing I know. When people are in pain, they go and look for help. So when I read this hadith, what I understand, he was in pain. That's why he's going to his people and he's saying, who's the wisest amongst you? Because he wants help. But when he goes to the worshiper, that worshiper caused him to despair. He said, no, 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 you don't there's no hope for you. You're beyond redemption. You're beyond tawbah. Wallah al-azim, we have people like this in our ummah. When you go to them, and it doesn't matter if he's the imam, it doesn't matter if he's sheikh, it doesn't matter if he's ustaz, it doesn't matter. Sometimes if they don't understand ilm al-nafs, they don't understand the way human behavior, they make big mistakes. They may know the Sharia, but they don't know human beings. They don't understand how human beings, what motivates them. They don't understand the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ when he said, yassiru wa la tu'assiru. Make things easy for people. Don't make things hard. Bashiru. Give them good news. In other words, cause them to have hope. Wa la tunaffiru. Don't say things to them that's going to make them run away. That's what we do with our youth. Sometimes. They come to us and they say, Baba, Mama, Ustaz, Sheikh, I'm having this problem. Oh no, it's haram. Haram alayk, shuma alayk, aib alayk. Right? They run away. That's not what Rasulullah ﷺ said. He said, Bashiru, wa la tunaffiru. Give them some help. So when this young person, he wants to make tawbah after killing 99 people, he goes to his people and he's saying, help me. Tell me who's the wisest. He goes to the person, he's so despaired, he kills him too. You know, despair was when you lose hope. You think, I can't, there's nothing, no one can help me. I'm beyond repair. But he's still looking for help. He goes to someone else, and that person says, Yes, of course, for sure. With Allah, there are no throwaway people. Until you take your last breath, the chance for redemption is available. The chance for reform, it is available with Allah. Sometimes we cause people to despair, especially our young people, because we don't understand the society, because we don't understand the pressures that they're under. We don't understand, so we don't want them to understand. Wallahi, I see this in our community. When he goes to the second man who tells him, yes, there's hope for you, you see, he was smart enough to listen to his story. You killed 100 people. And we don't have the details, but you can imagine that he's like, okay, I understand. Your people, yeah, they would cause you to kill them. So don't go back there. He's able to diagnose him correctly. And that's what we have to do with our children, with our youth. Diagnose them correctly. Understand that this is the beginning of the worst time of humanity. Rasulullah ﷺ talked about this time, the time that we're living in, where a person would wake up as a believer, but something happens throughout the day. When he goes to sleep, he's no longer a believer. That's the time that we're living in, where you can hold a device in your hand. You're not even old enough to understand everything you're hearing and everything that you're seeing, and it contradicts your entire worldview. You say that you are a person of Iman, and this will give you every iota of kufr, of nifaq, of haram. And then we let our children have this, and then we blame them for what it brings to them, what it makes them. It's a big problem. It's a big problem. So the premise of this talk, bismillah, the premise of this talk is to show you how trauma can affect your iman. How it can directly affect the soundness of your faith. And how it can affect your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm going to give you examples from the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so you can understand. Okay? So first and foremost, human beings have always had trauma. There are many verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, no, you're going to go through things. You're going to have a hard time. You're going to have some problems, for sure. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوءِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Allah tells us, no, you're going to have something of fear. You're going to experience it. Right? And fear is on a spectrum. It can be something as low as anxiety, like low-lying anxiety, but it can be as high as panic attacks, where a person is so overcome by fear that they can't function. وَالْجُوء, ask the people of Philistine about hunger. وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ, you're going to lose money. You're going to lose property. Allah is telling you this in the Quran. It's very clear. وَأَنفُسِ, you're going to lose lives. You are going to lose your loved ones, and your loved ones are going to lose you. And these things can be traumatic. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like, He expects us to move past it, to learn the wisdom of it. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. Because in another verse He says, مَا أَصَابَ مِن مُصِيبَةٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. Nothing is going to, no affliction is going to affect you except by the permission of Allah. So He's telling you, if you get an affliction, there's some trauma that you have, is Allah allowed it. But then He tells you, وَمَن يُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ. If you truly, truly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يَهْدِي قَلْبَهُ. He guides his heart. He will guide his heart. Now the question is how do we facilitate people believing in Allah so that they can get that guidance from Allah? Because in other verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the same thing. Ittaqullah وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ. If you have awareness of Allah, if you reach the stage where you are afraid of offending Allah, Allah Himself will teach you. Allah will guide you. Right? These verses are, it's another way of saying the same thing. Right? Now, what I understand is that normally we used to live in societies where you were helped by your neighbors, you were helped by your extended family, you were helped by your community, you were helped by your tribe. But when we move into these societies, when we move into Western societies, which is all about the dollar bill, we lose parts of our humanity. We lose the connections. We lose the ability to help people, especially our children, to overcome the traumatic events that happen to them. We lose that. So if you can understand the Quran, if you can understand the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the wisdom of helping the elderly, the wisdom of helping the orphan, the wisdom of helping the handicapped, all of the vulnerable people in our community, in reality, you are helping them to deal with their trauma. That's the point. So they're not traumatized over and over and over and over and over again. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is encouraging us, saying whoever takes care of the yatim, the orphan, will be with me like this, Yawm al-Qiyamah. He's like saying, no, take care of them. They were already traumatized. They lost their parents. They should not be walking around in society with no one to love them, no one to take care of them. So he's saying, no, take care of them, and then you'll be with me. Your ma'iyah, Yawm al-Qiyamah, is with me. So, what is trauma? Trauma. You know, trauma is a wound. There's two types of wounds. You have the physical wound. Somebody cuts open your arm with a knife. Allah hafidh. May Allah protect us. Allah cover us. Asturna bi sitrika al-jameel, ya Allah. That's a wound. But you can also have a psychological wound. The same thing can happen inwardly. And in the same way that you get an open wound on your arm and you go and seek help, you're going to get stitches. First, they're going to clean it. They're going to be gentle with you. They're going to stop the bleeding. They're going to sew it up. They're going to put antibiotic ointment on it. They're going to change the bandages every day. Same thing has to happen when you have an inner wound. Same thing. You have to speak to someone who cares. You know, you have to be able, the cure, most of the time, the cure for psychological trauma is grief. To be able to grieve properly. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us these tears. You know, the human being is made to express himself. Because even if he doesn't express it on his tongue, if he doesn't say on his tongue, it will show up on his limbs. Right? It will show up in his face. If he's depressed, you don't have to say anything to him. He doesn't have to say anything to you. You can see it in the way he's walking. You can see it in the way he's talking. You can see it in his face. He will express it. So we have to express what we're going through. We have to express what we're feeling. And when you don't, it's like compressing anger. It's like compressing hurt. It's going to come out some kind of way. It's like an infection. If you don't take care of it properly, it's going to come back worse. Same. It can happen many different ways. It can happen, you know, somebody can be physically assaulted. Somebody can be sexually assaulted. Somebody can witness a violent crime to a loved one, something like that. These things leave imprints in our psyche, in our soul. It leaves imprints. And sometimes we need help to overcome those things. Now, sometimes with our youth, and I've seen this a lot, we put our youth in public school. And they, because of their name, right, Muhammad or Ahmed or Mustafa or Khadija or something like that. And they say, oh, where are you from? So I'm from Afghanistan. And then the kids start to pick on them because their father is in the military fighting against the Afghan. So they pick on Mustafa and Khadija every day, and they suffer. These are called small traumas over a long period of time. And it does something to the child. It makes them ashamed of their name, makes them ashamed of their religion, makes them ashamed of where they came from. And the parents are saying, go back to school, get up, go to school, go back to school. Completely unaware of what they're going through. Unaware. Wallahi, I see these type of situations. Many times I see them when they're too late. By the time they get to the university, they begin struggling with their deen. Because they never had a chance to develop their deen on their own. They were simply taking from their parents, right? Whatever the parents' understanding of Allah was, whatever the parents' understanding of Rasulullah Islam was, whatever the parents understood about Islam, that's what they took. And then in the end, they reject it. They have to throw it off because it's too heavy. And then people will say, haram alayk. What's wrong with you? You don't love Allah. She was never given a chance to love Allah. When she turned 11 years old and she started having her cycle, she was told, put on the hijab or you're going to the fire. She was never told to love Allah and that Allah loves her. She was never given compassion. So by the time she's 17, by the time she's 18, she's finished with it. I'm finished with this. Right? This is what happens many times. So, when people go through that, there's this narrowing, there's this constriction of psychological functioning. Just like if you got your arm cut or you got your arm broke, you're going to keep it close to you. You can't move it and deal with it the same way that you normally do. Same thing with psychological functioning. When a person has that trauma, what ends up happening is they're not able to function properly. And they have to shut that part of them off. They have to shut it off. And when they shut it off, they shut off all feeling. They don't just shut off the trauma of their past. They can't deal with, they can't have normal relationships with people. Because part of them is suppressed. Part of them is hidden. All right? They become separated from themselves. And they become disconnected from others. Because they don't know how to express themselves. They're afraid to express themselves many times because they feel like the other person is not going to receive them properly. Right? There's this pain that they need to escape from. There's this pain that they have to get away from. They are ashamed of themselves. They're ashamed of, it's many things, but it keeps them, in actuality, they're stuck in the past. They're actually not dealing with the present, what's right in front of them. They are reacting to what's in the past. Okay? So now let me ask you this. When you think of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, can you give me an example where the entire ummah was traumatized? Traumatized, just trauma. Yes, the battles, but the Badr, they won. Uhud. What's the young man's name? MashaAllah. Judges? Tabarakallah. Right? He's absolutely correct. Because during the battle of Uhud, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told 40 archers, go on that mountain and don't move. It doesn't matter if we're winning or if we're losing, don't move. What happened? They moved. The trauma is self-inflicted. They brought it on themselves. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because many of our youth bring trauma on themselves. But so did the Sahaba. All right? On that day, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he lost 70 as-Sahaba. 70, more than 70 actually. This is not like today, where if you lose someone in your family, you can go down to the county office and get a GR, general relief. You can get some food stamps, you can get a place to live, you can get some help, it wasn't those days. If you lose a man in your family, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a very hard time. So there are 70 people missing from Medina, just gone. They're gone. Husbands, grandfathers, uncles, brothers, caretakers, they're just gone. Now I want you to think, right? Because so many things happened that day. There were some Sahaba. These are Sahaba, radiyallahu anhum. Right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about them, right? Radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. That Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they were so overcome when they thought that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was killed. Some of them said, I don't want to fight anymore. This is despondent. They became despondent. In other words, despondency is when you cannot respond to the situation in front of you correctly. That is an actual consequence of trauma. And I'm picking these out from the seerah so that you can understand that even though these are the ones, their iman is so high, these are the ones accepted by Allah. They have amongst them the Ashra Mubashirin, those 10 that were promised paradise. And still, they suffer trauma. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to deal with them in a certain way. Now, how do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam how to deal with his Sahaba? This ayah was revealed, right? You read the Asbab al-Nuzul, why this ayah was revealed. You will understand this verse was in response to the battle of Uhud. The companions, you know, how they disobeyed and it led to chaos. They brought this trauma on themselves. How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to deal with his companions? Naam? Naam, but in a different way. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. It is by the mercy of Allah that you are gentle with them. And then the very next verse tells them what would happen if he took them to account. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why didn't you obey? Why didn't you listen? Because sometimes that's what we do to our kids. Right? That's what we do. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَنْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you are hard with them and you're harsh with them, they are just going to run away from you. Now I want you to just think deeply about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. Just think about this. We are talking about as-sahaba al-kiram. We're talking about the noble companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And Allah Jalla Jalaluh is saying, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, if you are hard and harsh with your companions, even though they believe in Allah and they believe in you, they're going to leave you, they're going to run away from you. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to deal with trauma. That's how even though it was self-inflicted. You understand? You understand? Our children are dealing with some of the worst time in humanity, in the history of humanity. All contained in this little box. And we are not patient with them. We are not gentle with them. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَنْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. The youth, they're just going to run away if we don't deal gently with them. You know, all over the country right now, churches are being sold to Muslims. Muslims are buying up churches like crazy all over the country. Alhamdulillah. Wa shukrulillah. You know the mistake that they made? Besides it not being the truth, right? Besides that, they don't know how to involve, they don't know how to engage their youth during these times. Don't think that it can't happen to us. I'm looking across the room. Where are the 15-year-olds? Where are the 16-year-olds? That's the next generation. If they don't pay the bills in the next 10 years, next 15, 20 years, who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to keep this masjid open? We have to be very smart. We have to be genius about the way we engage our youth. We have to be thinking, we have to begin thinking about it. Be very smart about it. But let's not stop right there. When you think about the strong man of the ummah, the strong man, no one could ever hurt him. Who do you think about? Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu an. I mean, this was the one that many of the Muslims were leaving Mecca to make hijrah to Yathrib, and many of the Sahaba, they had to leave Mecca quietly under the cover of night. They had to steal away. Not Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu an. He went to the Meccans right around the Kaaba, the Quraysh, and he spoke to them. He said, I am going to Medina. It wasn't Medina then, but Yathrib. I'm leaving. And if you want your wives to be widows, and you want your children to be orphans, then try and stop me. That's Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu an. He's the one that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if there was a Nabi after me, it would be Umar. He is the one that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when he goes down one path, Shaitan al-Rajim finds a different path to go down. This man is no joke. He's the one. But when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, he could not accept it. This is classical trauma. Classical. When the news began to spread that morning that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had passed away, the one who brought the news to Umar ibn al-Khattab, Umar looked at him and said, you're a liar. And if you say it again, I'm going to separate your head from your shoulders. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he had a completely different response. He went to his daughter's room, Aisha, Sayyidatna Aisha radiallahu anha, sees that it's true, and he comes out to the masjid to address the people. But Umar ibn al-Khattab is already in the masjid and he's telling people it's not true. Don't say that, it's not true. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq comes into the masjid, he tries to take Umar by the hand, and he's telling him, Umar, it's true. Sit down, Umar. And as a clinician, when I read this hadith, I'm like, wow. This is what you have to try and do with people who have been traumatized. Right? You have to try to get them stable. Right? You have to try to get them to move beyond the shock and to slowly deal with the pain. So Abu Bakr as-Siddiq even could not get Umar to calm down. He goes to the other side of the masjid and he begins to say, he begins to tell the people, he begins to recite the verse, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is but a messenger. قَدْ قَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ. Messengers have passed away before him. Finally, Umar ibn al-Khattab is listening. Finally, he's listening. And from his own words, his own narration, he says, when I heard Abu Bakr as-Siddiq reciting those verses, number one, I knew it was true. And number two, he said, my legs ceased to hold me up. That's trauma. He just passed out. That's Umar ibn al-Khattab. Now, I dare anyone to say that his iman was not strong enough. I dare you to say it. But sometimes that's what we expect from our children. We put them in situations, right, where they actually need help, they need support, they need guidance, they need assistance, and then we accuse them of weak faith when they respond to the trauma in a certain way. Say that to Umar ibn al-Khattab. And it wasn't just him. Aisha radiallahu anha, in the hadith, she tells us, after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, I never saw Fatima Zahra, the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, smile with a full smile like she did when he was alive. Bilal ibn al-Rabah stopped calling the adhan in Medina and asked permission to leave because it was so hard to call the adhan and remember the days of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And at the conquest of Al-Quds in Jerusalem, Bilal ibn al-Rabah, he came. And Umar radiallahu anhu was there. And Umar radiallahu anhu asked him, please Bilal, call the adhan. Please. Because it's been a decade. They hadn't heard him call the adhan. He refused to call the adhan. So he said, no. And they kept asking him, please, please, please. When he finally called the adhan, there was not one dry eye around the compound of Al-Quds. Not one. So we have to begin to think about, how we help each other, how we help repair damage, psychological damage that happens to people in our communities. We don't need to sweep it under the rug and say, oh, let someone else do it. Let someone else take care of it. Right? Because sooner or later, it has an impact on the community. Sooner or later, it has an impact. You see, the thing about a psychological wound is it's just like a physical wound. If you don't treat it, it will keep calling your attention to it. It will keep saying, hey, fix me. You might get an infection, it'll start bleeding again, it won't heal properly, it'll keep saying, hey, pay attention to me. Same thing with psychological wounds. You'll get married, and it'll show up in your marriage, right? If the person doesn't heal that trauma, let me give you an example. If you have a child, and the child is, trauma can be neglect also. If the child is neglected, the child is not given the love that they need. You see, children, they need two things, always. Number one, they need acceptance and affection. Children need that. They need it. They need constant reinforcement. Baba loves you. Mama loves you. Come here. I'm going to give you a kiss. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Here, come here. It's okay. You got a boo-boo? It's okay, it's okay. They need that over and over and over and over and over again. And if you don't do it, then what happens is they don't think that something is wrong with the parents. They think that something is wrong with them. Baba doesn't love me because something's wrong with me. Mama doesn't love me because something's wrong with me. I am not accepted. I have to hide my real self. Otherwise, my real self, like who I really am, I really want to cry, but I can't cry because I'm going to be told, shut up. They need that. That's the first thing they need is acceptance and affection. The second thing that they need, authenticity. They need to be allowed to be who they are. Right? And I'm not saying they don't need tarbiyah. They need tarbiyah. But as things begin to come up, maybe because of their environment or because of, maybe the culture or things like that. It has to be dealt with gently. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. Compassion is the first step. Compassion is the first step to dealing with children. If you don't deal with that, this is a wound that it begins when they're young. And if they don't learn how to undo that shame that they begin to have about themselves, that they're not accepted, that they're not loved, they'll be 25 years old and get married, and that wound will show up in the marriage. Because hurt people hurt other people. That's how it works. All right? So if their wife says something to them similar to what their parents said, they'll be reacting to this wound from the past. And you think that it's the wound from the present. It has nothing to do with the present. It has to do with something that happened 20 years ago that was never healed. Just like if you don't heal a physical wound, it will keep coming up. It will keep demanding attention. Okay? So we have 10 minutes. I'm going to wrap up right now. There is something that we call, as therapists, post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth. What it means is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran. مَا أَصَابَ مِن مُصِيبَةٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. Nothing is going to afflict you. Right? Whatever afflicts you is by the permission of Allah. وَمَن يُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ. You see, belief is not just believing in Allah, it's also believing that no matter what happens to you, you have husn al-dhan billah. You have a good opinion about Allah. Right? You wholeheartedly believe in the qadr, that what's for you is for you. And then you begin to work to overcome whatever that thing is. وَمَن يُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ يَهْدِي قَلْبَهُ. Allah guides his heart. There's so much meaning here. There's so much wisdom here. Do what you have to do to overcome that so that you can function properly, so that your children can function properly, our youth can function properly. And what ends up happening is that your tragedy turns into triumph. Your mess becomes the message for others. You say, no, I've been down that road. I know. I'm going to tell you what you have to do. I'm going to help you. Your mess becomes the message. Your chaos, whatever you went through, whatever happened, it leads to clarity. Right? Your pain, it turns into purpose. And wallahi, I bear witness to this. I bear witness to this. I am the founder and a director of a nonprofit called Lamps of Light. Lamps of Light Project. We have a table set up there outside. And that's what we focus on. We focus on helping people overcome their problems, whether they're single individuals, whether they are couples, families, right? But we specialize in addictions because I've noticed an explosion of addictions in the Muslim community. Explosion. It's like, and it doesn't matter because I travel all over the country. I was in New York 2 weeks ago. I give talks all over, in Minnesota, in Muslim mental health conferences, and Islamic psychology conferences, and like everywhere. Everyone says the same thing about the youth. They have behavioral addictions. Shopping, pornography, social media, online gambling. So we have decided that this is how we're going to participate in helping the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We want to help them remove those stumbling blocks so that they can go on and fulfill their purpose. Right? And that's what every single person has to be thinking about that. If you have children, that's what you have to be thinking about. So inshallah, I'm going to pause right there. I think we have maybe 5 minutes left. And see if there are any questions or comments. Assalamu alaikum.
How do you deal with a case that when the kids, they are almost, they might hurt themselves, and you're trying to prevent them, and they keep saying, no, I can do it, I can do it. You know, that's argument. They think they are, when you tell them no, they think they don't love them, but actually you are trying, you love them, that's the reason you are saying no, but they come saying, no, I wanted to do it.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, like, of course, we're going to leave it general, right? But normally in situations like this, there are two extremes, and we want to stay away from those two extremes. On one hand, the parents are like codependent, right? They're like, I'm not okay unless you are okay, right? And so what that does is it smothers the children. Or sometimes it chases them away, right? Now on the other extreme, they enable. They give them whatever they want, right? They know that the child has an addiction. If he asks for money, Baba, I need $25. Now you know that he has an addiction, but because you're trying to be the good Baba, you give him the $25. Then he comes back the next day, Baba, I need 50. Okay, 50. Baba, I need to use the car, and I need 100. Both of those extremes are bad. What I try to tell parents is to come to the middle, right? Come to the middle. Because sooner or later they're going to see the truth. Sooner or later. The middle ground, which is always the best place, is Ya ibni, ibnati. I see you have a problem, right? I see there's an issue here, right? I cannot carry that. I can't carry your problem. That's yours to carry. But I'm here to help you if you want help, right? You set the boundaries. The boundaries are for you, not for them, for you. You're telling yourself, I am not going to go this, I'm not going to go further than this on this side. I'm not going to go further than this on that side. You know, and then you stick to that. Right? So, in other words, you're not enabling them, you're not helping them to go to destruction, nor are you just throwing them away, saying, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to be around you, I don't want to. Those are extremes. The middle ground has to be, I see, I understand. Right? I was young too before. I understand. But this is where I stop. If you want help, I will help you like this or like that. I will help you that way. But I'm not going to go to this extreme, nor am I going to go to this extreme. And that's general because you didn't give me any specifics, so I'm just speaking in general also. I hope that's helpful. جميعا نعم جميعا إن شاء الله.
We have just a gift for the end, no stage. We have Asad, Muhammad Asad.
I think still outside.
No, because someone is coming to Islam. You want
I think
Muhammad? He's there?
Yeah, he's here.
Alhamdulillah, someone he's coming to declare Shahada.
ما شاء الله.
That's a gift from Allah. So he will declare Shahada and you will lead him to say
بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله. Alex.
Somebody will help you.
Bienvenidos. ¿Hablas inglés?
Yeah.
Okay. How are you?
Good. How are you?
This is a good friend of mine, actually, Mustafa Omar.
Oh, wow.
He's a good friend of mine, yes, mashallah. So, Alex, it's always amazing, right? It's amazing when people become Muslim, right? It's many of us were born and raised Muslim. We don't know what it's like to enter into Islam.
Yeah.
And so when we see someone on their own will, their own effort, that they want to be Muslim, that they have understood that there's only one God and that Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, peace and blessings of God be upon him. When a person understands that, we're like, wow, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So if you just very quickly, just tell me what attracted you.
Give him the microphone.
Well, you know, my family is, my parents are Hispanic, so we grew up Catholic, but something never just felt too right in the church, you know? Something always felt off, something in the back of my head was always, you know, it felt like something was telling me this is not the right path. I fell out of being in a religion for a while. I came back trying to search up like Christianity, Judaism. I haven't really, at the time, I hadn't really like known anything about Islam. But believe it or not, I think it was for a reason. I feel like it was being saved for last because I want, like I was saying, I was being confused in Christianity. Again, the book didn't make sense. You know, the Trinity didn't make sense. And I always felt like it was like God telling me that this isn't something to follow. This isn't the truth. There's something wrong in the Trinity. There's something wrong in a bunch of the contradictions in the Bible. And it's when I prayed for guidance, it was revealed to me that there is only one God, and there was only one God worthy of worship. There's no one beside God, no one before God, no one after God. All that stuff made sense to me. And then it's when I prayed for more guidance is when I found Islam. I started seeing all kinds of videos about Islam. I started seeing all I don't know if you guys know, but Uthman from One Message Foundation was attacking a lot of the Bible contradictions, and all that stuff started making sense to me. I started researching myself about Islam, and they just told me about I believe it's the 5 pillars,
Yes.
and the 6
Articles of
the
faith.
6 articles.
Yes.
Everything makes sense. You know, being here feels good. You know, so everything in my body is telling me that this is the right path to take.
Allahu Akbar. Yes. No, but see, the thing is that when someone sincerely asks Allah for guidance, Allah will guide you, right? Like Allah, He will not leave you to yourself if you sincerely turn to Him and ask Him for guidance, right? So, we're gonna say something in English, and then we're gonna repeat it in Arabic, all right? So in English, I want you to say, I bear witness
I bear witness
that there is no God
that there is no God
except the one true God,
except the one true God,
Allah.
Allah.
And I bear witness
And I bear witness
that the Prophet Muhammad
that the Prophet Muhammad
is His servant
is His servant
and His messenger.
and His messenger.
Now, we're going to say it in Arabic. Ashaddu
Ashhadu
Allah
Allah
ilaha
ilaha
illallah
illallah
wa ashaddu
wa ashhadu
anna
anna
Muhammadan
Muhammadan
abduhu
abduhu
wa
wa
rasulahu.
rasulahu.
Welcome to Islam. It's that simple, you know? So, welcome.
Inshallah, you will be da'iya. Inshallah, one day. Invite people to
Yes, inshallah. So he's saying you'll be a caller, inshallah. You'll be one who helps people to understand the message of Islam. So this is what I want to say to the community. Because Alex is now your responsibility. Right? This is one of the things that sometimes we drop the ball on. People come into the community, and a week later, we don't know anything about him. We don't know anything about his family. We don't know what he needs. We don't know what he wants. We don't know what his struggles are. You have to make it a priority. You have to get to know him, know his last name, know what his job is, how you can help facilitate his practicing of Islam. Don't just leave him to himself after the takbir. All right? And if you know down at, I don't know what your programs are here.
We have, inshallah, for the brothers they came to Islam, we have some programs for them.
Okay.
Committee for that. And we have also in Ramadan, yes, special iftar for the new Muslim.
Alhamdulillah.
Yani try to come 8th of Ramadan, inshallah, we have a special day for them.
Allahu Akbar.
He can share with us throughout Ramadan, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Where you live?
South Central Los Angeles.
South Central.
That's yes. If you can come in Ramadan here with us, we have full program, and also if you have any question, anytime I am here in this small office, you can come anytime. Inshallah, we'll find someone. His name Hamdi here.
Inshallah. سبحان الله وبحمده أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.